Welcome to today's episode of the Champion Chat podcast. As always, we are joined by the wonderful Alison Champion, local councillor. Hello Alison, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Carl. Thank you for being here and thank you very much for today.
And today we actually have a special treat for everybody. We're actually going to do something a little bit different. We are here at the newly formed and well-supported Montmorency Community Hub. And Alison, you'll be doing a little bit of a forum chat with the main people behind, or the driving forces behind, the Montmorency Community Hub today.
I will, Carl. Slight variation on a theme today, everybody. I am actually going to be asking the questions. I'm going to be the interviewer and Carl takes a back seat and just watches from behind the camera. So please join us very shortly. Hello, welcome to the Monty Community Hub, and I'm joined today by our founder, Marissa John Pillai, and two of our board members. We've got Andrew Tupper and Ron Brown. Thank you all very much for joining me here today. It is a privilege to spend some time with you and find out a little bit about the journey of the Monty Community Hub. There's been a lot of attention and conversation about this land since November 2020. When the Uniting Church put it on the market, and there was a lovely big sign out the front there on Mountain View Road. And my initial memory of this place, this corner, is actually as a local resident and as the Uniting Church preschool or kinder. And friends of mine from Mother's Group, now my Mother's Group was formed in 2004, and friends of mine in the Mother's Group, local resident, sent their boys here in the noughties. And their mum Jacinta painted the mural, the beautiful mural out on the wall out here that you can see every time you go past. And then my memory also is as the ward councillor in December 2016, when a childcare organisation planned on buying this and just renewing the services. So it was still supposed to be a kinder or a childcare organisation, and that didn't eventuate. And the property has just remained vacant certainly ever since then. So then I have a very distinct memory actually of our phone call, Marissa. You rang me in November 2020 and you asked me if the community would use this if it were a hub. And I responded very much in favour of the idea. I don't know if you remember the answer to the question at all, but I certainly was just, yeah, absolutely. The community here would love this as a hub. So, Andrew and Ron, I'd like to ask your thoughts. The idea was presented to you in some way, so what inspired you both to take part in the possibility of this being a community hub? Andrew, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Alison. So Marissa here, or MJ as she's widely known, took a great initiative in pushing a vision out on social media, a vision basically of the kids in the community having a place to be together, that was based around this idea of community for its own sake, if you like. And I was attracted for two particular reasons. Firstly, in my own history, as for many people in Montmorency, there's meaning in the place. In my case, my parents actually got married here quite some time ago. And I knew of its history as a church and kindergarten, and my wife's family had also been involved for a period as well. So there was that sense of history and the way that it's sort of been serving the community. But also I think that from my point of view, it's just really important that as our society evolves, we find new ways to express our desire for community and the way that our community helps us and helps the wider country as we all come together. And so I thought that it was extremely timely that we think about a place that is based not on a particular set of beliefs, not on a particular club, but on saying this place is available for those who want to come together and find new ways to relate to each other in whatever way that works. And the potential of this centre is was quite large with that as well. My own background is as a meteorologist, and I've dealt with a lot of natural disasters, and one of the things that I've particularly noticed there, and it's well known, is that the strength of a community, the resilience of the community determines the outcome after the disaster. And so I really believe in the importance of strong communities.
Look, it's interesting. I actually had a letterbox drop, and when I opened this piece of mail, it said, you know, the community are getting together to acquire this site. So the first, really, that I guess awareness that I had about the site was from that. So I came and had a look at the site, because I don't live far away. I'm only 2 streets away, and I came and had a look at the site, and the sort of kind of builder developer sort of in me said, what a great site for social housing. So I rang Marissa up, because I think there was a number on this flyer, and made contact with her and expressed this view. And Marissa said, well, that's not really exactly what the community want. We want a place where, you know, the community can get together, not a place where we can accommodate, you know, build affordable housing. That's not really the vision at the moment. But you know, your enthusiasm is welcome, and, you know, you're welcome to come along and meet some of the people and so on, which I then did. I came to a few events, and I was absolutely gobsmacked, because I've actually only moved into this area, into this sort of, you know, Montmorency and the Banyule area in the last couple of years. Before that, I was much closer to the city in a much, quite a different community. A very much more affluent sort of area where people were really a lot more selfish, I think, basically, I'd have to say. And what astounded me when I got here was how much of a community there was. Everybody did know everybody, and everybody was concerned about everybody else's well-being. There was a lot more of that. And then as we went through the process of trying to sort of promote the idea of acquiring the site, and as we went through the process of trying to raise the money, and I wasn't a key mover and shaker here, but I observed everything that was going on, I just grew in admiration for the level of commitment that people have in this community for community-related projects and community wellbeing. It was levels and levels and levels above what I'd been used to for 34 years in Boroondara. So that, I guess, out of respect for that, I thought I could see myself, even if my social housing vision wasn't accommodated immediately, maybe in the long run, maybe not, but maybe there'll be somewhere else. But just by connecting with the community and the passion that people had for this project, I thought this is a really good place for me to get involved with my community out here. I think it was sort of inspiring, to be honest.
Lovely, thank you very much, Ron. It sounds like you had some learning curves there. Okay, so talking of learning curves, in making this project a reality, Andrew, what were some learning curves that came up for you?
It's been quite extraordinary watching this journey, and you know, I personally have learnt so much, but I've also enjoyed watching everyone learn from each other. So I know very little about real estate. Others in this room know a great deal about real estate. I don't know so much about the grassroots of community, but there are people involved in the project who have that as their profession, of being community organisers, of knowing who to talk to about this, how to get people on board, how to raise money, how to apply for grants and so on, and their own projects live and die by those skills. So that's been amazing for me to see. I think that the biggest learning of all for me has been, it's actually changed my perception of this community in general. I had a particular view of the place where I lived, you know, based on its history and, you know, observations around. And then through this project, so many people came out of the woodwork that said, actually, no, that, you know, our view of this community is of a really modern, inclusive, diverse community, and we see this facility as being really critical to that. And so I've had the great joy of meeting all these people that have taught me so much and shown me how rich the community is.
Thank you very much for that, Andrew. Now, MJ, so for those of you who don't know, Marissa is commonly known as MJ. She's been a member of this community for coming up to 4 years now. 2017. Yeah, coming up for 4 years. And so MJ, we'll refer to you as MJ. So MJ, how has your newly found local community contributed to this project?
This place exists because of the community rallying behind it in many, many ways. So I could enumerate a few. The first way, I think, is with their thoughts, whether it be encouragement, whether it be cynicism or skepticism. People have just thrown ideas, and the majority of folks have said, from the social media posts that Andrew referred to, from conversations on the street, from outcomes after letterboxes and phone calls and everything, overwhelmingly really positive about this space. There's been a long time yearning for a community space like this, and people have achieved it in their own homes, in different facilities that have let people use their spaces. But to have a dedicated space for community, the idea really has gripped a lot of people and has been on people's mind for decades, actually, people who've been here. So overwhelmingly, the contributions from community were positive and encouraging. Some people rightly pointed out it's a lot of money. How are we going to do this? What's the models? And some people said, oh, have you heard about this project here, this project there? So lots of thoughts across the spectrum. And then folks sharing their expertise as well. So not just opinions, but also skills. And we have a very we're blessed in Monty to have, and in the surrounds, to have people who are highly skilled in lots of different ways, lots of professionals and tradies living here, and a lot of people who actually predominantly use their skills outside the area. And they come home to sort of crash and snooze, and especially during the pandemic, people are sort of looking inwards. So we've had lots of skills of folks who have perhaps never done anything local with those skills exactly, and there's this opportunity to utilize those skills in various ways in their backyard. So people have chipped in with their skills, and of course financial. We had to pay the deposit in about a week since we put the offer in. We had to have enough of a surety of getting that deposit before we put the offer in. And then, of course, settling the property, which happened August last year, and we just got there by, I think, over 300 people put in money in different ways, from $3 to $100,000 to contribute. So financial is definitely there. And then just the enthusiasm and ongoing energy to keep the space cranking, whether it's letterboxing, like Ron mentioned, whether it's going to info shops. We had a pop-up shop in Weir Street for a while, and just being here to open up and have conversations with people. And then all the in-kind support. So lots of tradies, lots of businesses, lots of folks locally helping out, letting us use their window space, letting us meet in their spaces when we didn't have a hub to meet in before this was a reality. We joked a few times that we need a hub to build a hub. Where would we meet to organise to do something like this? Sort of a bit circular, really. But and even when we were doing raffle tickets, businesses saying, yeah, we'll sell you tickets, we'll have your posters up, and I'll get teary if I keep talking, so I'll pass it back to you, Alison.
Could I just
go on.
something if I can?
Yeah, please.
So MJ's just picked up something too in talking about the old dormitory view. And I think that's one of the really important things about this project now, is that this is a moment in our community history. We've had over 2 years of a pandemic, and we've made so many adjustments, and one of those big adjustments has been the understanding that we don't have a CBD and suburbs where people go to sleep. We have communities that want to thrive and where people want to be local, and with modern technology can be local and still their jobs. and with modern technology can be local and still have their jobs. So here we have a complex with 2 large multi-use halls, lots of rooms that can be used as sort of places to be within walking distance of a lot of houses or short driving distance of others. So it's a way of helping our community evolve into a rich place to be, and just near lots of cafes and so on in Weir Street. So it's about the moment as much as the place, and that's a great thing about the project.
Andrew, thank you very much. That you've sort of started with a question that I do want to ask. So what facilities here are going to be available to the public, and how can they access them?
Okay, so I might ask MJ to comment on this too. But we've had so many views from the public about things that can be here. And everyone who's seen this space has articulated their own vision. So, for example, I've had someone talk to me about how she really wants to be able to meet other young mums close to her home. She wants to be able to connect with people that she will also see down the street and at other community events, because that's how the fabric of the community is sort of knit together, with people that have these multiple contexts in common. We've had multiple approaches from other groups who want to use the space for specific things. Seniors education, for example, youth groups, gardening groups and kitchen groups. We might talk more about that later. But there seems to be a plethora of people with a need for space, but not the actual place to do it.
Thanks, Andrew. Great question, Alison. A lot of people have been walking past going, what's going to be here? When can I use it? Can I use it yet? So as Andrew mentioned, there are 2 large buildings on site. There's a former kindergarten and a former church building. And within those 2 spaces, there are lots of other spaces, sort of rooms within that. So as is, it's a bit of a work in progress, because it's been, as you mentioned, Alison, out of use for about 4 years. So there's been a lot of work to sort of even get the utilities back on. It requires a lot of work, as people who know this intimately might be aware. When you have a building out of use for a while, you don't really know the condition of all the things inside it. So at the moment, it's a bit of a work site in some places, and there are some places that are available for use for one-off events at the moment. Ultimately, we will be remodeling some of the interior. So the space we're in, we're sitting on the stage in the former kinder area. So there's a stage, and then there's a large community workroom. At the end of that will be a community kitchen up to commercial spec, and a large area for shared preparation of food and other things. In this same building, there'll be a small consult room with windows that look out into the communal space, with a lot of potential for people to have, say, art therapy appointments or one-on-one appointments, and still have vision for their children who might be out here playing and being with other people. So there's a big need for those sorts of spaces. And in this same building, there's plans for an open makerspace area, which has an adjoining shed where tools might be there and brought out and brought in, so hand tools and even some modern tools like 3D printers and laser cutters. They're all the rage at the moment, but a lot of people don't have access to them, or they don't even have maybe the community to be connected with. So those are, if you're unfamiliar, maker spaces are spaces where people come and make things together, and they might have access to tools. So that's sort of what's going to be in this area. And then the former church building, pretty much the 3 rooms that are there already will be sort of repurposed. So there's a large hall, which will be a community hall, and then a smaller meeting room, which would be ideal for business meetings or for small organisation meetings, sort of 12 to 15 people style. And then a smaller, at the moment we're calling it tech studio, which has the potential, we haven't nutted out the details yet, but it looks like there might be a potential for that little room to be a recording booth for the hall, which would be exciting if we manage that. But the tech studio will have perhaps the ability to record podcasts in a smaller way, and perhaps have some computers available that people can do editing of audiovisual things, and sort of a little bit of a mini library, since we don't really have one walking distance in our neighbourhood. So that's kind of what it's looking like. And in terms of public access, at the moment it's sort of, we're feeling our way there, because we're not at the stage of being able to open fully. We'll talk in a moment about sort of the timeline to that, but the public will be able to access it for booking events, and we hope to have quite a large portion of the week being open for drop-in and use of the spaces that are here, so the shared workspaces that might be available. So at the moment it's a 100% volunteer-run project, so the capacity to open to the public and in that way will depend on the interest and energy of folks. But there's a lot of interest and a lot of energy, so watch the space. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Marissa. Now, you did say it's a work in progress. You've got a lot of ideas and a lot of vision. Time frame. What time frame is the board working on to officially launch this community space?
Well, I'm happy to talk about that because I'm on the building committee. Realistically, I guess probably the first, and it's been 6 months now, I think, since we acquired the site. We settled and took over the site. And that process really was starting from scratch because as Marissa has pointed out, the buildings were not entirely derelict, but certainly all the services had been cut off. The grounds were really overgrown. There was no water meter. We couldn't get the water connected because we didn't even have a water meter. So we had to get the water meter and then we could get the water connected and so on. And that's been true of every aspect of the buildings. The process now that's ongoing is a design process with community input, and then eventually we're about to start, and this is from my point of view pretty exciting because I'm fortunate enough to be project managing this, and I think it's a great honour to be able to project manage our commercial kitchen. So we'll be building a kitchen that will be fitted out with all the facilities for catering projects, for group cooking activities and so on. There'll be a large pantry storeroom. We've just installed new hot water services. We've got new, facilities coming right through the kitchen, fridges and freezers and all the rest of it. So that's going to be ongoing over the next few months. But once that's finished, I think that will probably be for me one of the ta-da moments, when people will be able to come and see that we've actually transformed part of the space from what was effectively unusable into something really, really special. And that kitchen will open onto a kitchen garden, and there'll be space outside for people to, obviously, to plant and grow, but there'll also be tables and chairs. People will be able to come and eat and drink and meet there and so on as well. So a great community space just behind the kitchen. As well as that, there's been work going on in the church building to restore, revamp, renovate, upgrade, call it what you will, all of our lighting and cooling and heating and all the electrical systems been upgraded. The toilets are all in and working there and so on. So that's actually a working space from a building point of view. There is some disabled access work to go on there in removing some stairs and putting in some ramps and things like that we're planning to do this year as well, so that it really becomes much more accessible and DDA compliant. But in the short term, that church hall is pretty much ready to go now. People are using it. In fact, I think there was a meeting, MJ, am I right, last week by an Amnesty group and other groups have started booking in for the use of that space. So we are encouraging people that is, it's not fully realised, but it's certainly accessible and available now, and we'll continue to upgrade that space as we go along. So lots of design, building and I suppose upgrades going on. We are getting at the moment a lot of support too on this. Well, just while I'm on this subject briefly, we're getting a lot of support too from local tradespeople in the area, and that's something I'd really like to acknowledge. That there was an early concern. I'll actually contrast this with the early concerns. Early concerns were when I sort of walked in here, people were saying it's probably going to cost $350,000 to bring this site up to spec, and I said, I don't think so. I think we could do it for less. And everybody was like, yeah, but everything costs so much. And so I said, I actually think maybe $150,000, maybe, if we sort of are lucky and people will, jump in. So I was kind of putting myself out there a little bit at that stage by saying that. But I had been working with a lot of local tradespeople and knew that there was a good pool of people to draw on. Whether they would come and do it pro bono, whether they do it for free or not, was still an open question. I've got to say, and I think I can say this on behalf of everybody on the board and everybody that knows, we have just been so blessed because all the trades that have come and worked with us have done so on a no-charge basis. People have really jumped in, and I'm talking about carpenters, I'm talking about electricians, I'm talking about plumbers. It's fantastic for me that I've been able to go back to folk that I know, that I've been working with, but also other tradies that I didn't know, and just ring them up and say, I'm from the Monty Hub and we need somebody to come and do this, would you come and do it? And they've been like, yep, I'll be there on Friday. And it's just been that simple for people to get on board, and the love is actually already there. I haven't even had to kind of do a sales pitch to them about coming. The love is already there, and they've come and they've done work and they've given time, and not just on the weekend or in spare time. They've come during the day. They've not gone to another paid job. They've come here and helped us because suddenly the water was, a pipe had burst and water was bubbling up somewhere or something was needed, and they just came. So I've really got to say a big thank you to all those folk, and I would like to put a thank you board up somewhere on the site. We've been talking about that to acknowledge all the support that we're getting from local tradespeople. It's been fantastic.
Just to add to what Ron said, it's been really great sort of seeing I'm going to call it value for money in the sense of just how much goodwill has translated into real things happening on site. Of course, we will need resources as well, and the more we can do that, the more quickly we can sort of have the site fully open as well. We've been really blessed in that so many people contributed towards the purchase. There were a lot of share purchases and some very generous individual share purchases, and some smaller, and just some volunteer work, and that's all helped. We will need to be repaying some loans and looking at having funded programs that make sure that this is a financially viable site in the long term. I want to acknowledge that we've already received through the Montmorency Community Group a small council grant to help us with the kitchen, and also want to acknowledge Eltham Food Connect with that. And obviously, as we're drawing up our plans and vision, there's going to be a lot more that we want to do, and we're really going to, want all the help that we can get, basically. I just want to ask MJ, have I covered those bases okay, or did you want to? Okay, all good.
Lovely. You've kind of started on my next question. So how can a community member become involved in the hub from now?
Well, first saying that if anyone's watching this podcast, you're already involved, you're already invested, you're already thinking about it, and you're already participating in the kind of groundswell of enthusiasm that's buzzing around. And if you're sitting there going, oh, interesting, you might have a conversation with somebody, you might talk about it, you might come down and have a sticky beak in the site, walk around. One thing I forgot to mention in terms of the facilities is the outdoor space. Ron mentioned the kitchen garden. There's sort of a really beautiful native garden spaces, and a kind of an out-of-use sand pit that kids sort of dig around in and fuss about with, and lots of little digging spaces that kids enjoy around this space. And we'll see as time goes on those things developing. Sometimes you find little dioramas that children have made here, and there's the thriving bush garden group as well. So at the moment there are a few groups that are already using the space, and the bush garden group is a really good example. They actually started work before we even purchased the site, just tending to the garden, sprucing it up a little. I think this garden won a local competition back in the day, and so there's a bit of a dream to get a competition winning worthy garden back up again, Indigenous planting. So how you can get involved, we've got a website, montyhub.org. If you know Alison, you can contact Alison. Alison's batted a few enthusiastic people our way, and you can see our faces, so if you see us around, let us know. Over time, we're going to have more open sessions here, so we've had quite a few drop-in sessions at the site, and that will be advertised more and more. So we're just working up a regular schedule to sort of have people be able to drop by and see the site, and so you can come along if you sort of see that happening. Follow us on Facebook, that's the usual way. And on our website, there's a way you can put in your details and let us know what your interest might be in contributing, what your skills might be, that you want to be part of it. And there are lots of people who said, I don't know if I'll be able to help, and then when they've become involved, it's just been amazing, sort of, you know. So I think there's some people you might think, oh, I don't know if I could be part of this, but it's nothing much really. You sort of get together, and if you like the idea, come along and hang about, and it's sort of like coming to a friend's place and then you go, oh, I'll just do the dishes, I'll just do this, or oh, you need that, you know, oh, I know somebody who does that, you know, those connections kind of come through that. So yeah, just however it works for you, become connected more to the project if you're interested, and it's going to be slow and steady for a long time, which is really exciting. I looked it up recently because I was thinking about the word community and where it comes from and what it is. Especially, it gets thrown around with this centre a lot, and a lot of projects sort of use that word. And actually, it sort of comes from moving together, doing things together. And when you do things together, you feel the community. That's when you really feel connected and feel that happening. So I think we're creating community here. We're doing things together, and people who are part of it feel it. I think we all sort of feel it already in this space, you know. So that's the dream, and that's the invitation to be part of it if you're interested, and wait on the sidelines going, oh, I don't know if I feel like joining that bunch yet, but who knows, there might be something going on, you know, in 10 years' time that you come along to a birthday party and you go, oh, gosh, never been inside this building before. So it's going to be there for folks to join in lots of different ways.
Sorry, one little example of, and there are so many people who have joined in the project, but one that I particularly want to mention is designers Coley Volk and Brad Mitchell, who, parallel to the thinking about purchasing the site, did up a design model for what that centre area between the buildings could be, and included that in the design exhibition that they ran in Weir Street. And now we've got the model of that on display in the church building. And so what we've benefited from, you know, through that example and many others is an amount of parallel thinking where people have then got together and say, hey, now we can build the complete picture because there are so many people bringing their ideas forward proactively.
Lovely, thank you all very much for that. Now, one of my last questions was actually, what is your vision for the Monty Community Hub? But I think throughout this podcast, you've actually been expressing a very large vision. So I'm going to rephrase the question. I'm going to ask a slightly different one. And I'd like for each of you possibly to give me an answer. At what point will you personally believe that the Monty Community Hub is a success or has achieved its purpose? And I'll start with you, Ron.
I've got a very open mind about what I think can happen here in the long run. I was very excited to see when I first started to get involved about the community consultation process, where people were invited to just pin up on the wall an idea that they had, you know, tool sharing or a kitchen or whatever it might have been. And I started to see that actually there was a very, very wide range of ideas for of how the site could be developed and what it could be used for. And I started to appreciate then that my idea of social housing, which was my initial idea, was really just a very small part of a much bigger collective imagination, I suppose. It seemed to me that there will be a lot of ideas that I might not necessarily personally, you know, rush along to be part of. But there's clearly people out there who want these things to happen. I don't need tool sharing. I have a tool shed full of tools. But for folks that don't have tools or access to tools, a tool sharing facility here where you could come and make use of something would be fantastic resource for people, because I know how much I use tools all day long, and I sort of can see how valuable that would be, but I hadn't thought of it. So I now see the benefit of this kind of collective consultation process where everybody can contribute ideas. So I think we're still, that's still very much a part of what we're doing, and I would love to see more groups form now, and having a very active kitchen group that have been driving the kitchen project, working with the grants team, and a really, really active garden group. But I'd love to see other groups forming now around the hub concept, if you like, to promote whatever it is that they think we should be doing here. I'd love to see more groups, I'd love to see more people. So I think it is going to evolve, and I think that from my point of view, I've set aside my personal idea because I can see there's a lot of other good ideas that have kind of really wide support. And I'd just like to see that process really ferment and grow from here over the next 6, 12 months, however long it takes people to form up groups and get ideas and proposals and get them on the table. But yeah, I really want to see that process accelerated.
Thank you, Ron. Andrew?
Thanks. I'll give you the kind of corporate response first, which is that, we're Ron and I are on the board, Marissa is coordinator, and we all want to see the hub thrive and be financially and operationally sustainable, because if we can sustainably operate for a considerable period, and remembering that the church that was on these grounds was here for many decades, if we can help it thrive organisationally, then the value to the community will be realised, unless we've had to significantly compromise the principles that brought us together. So we do want to make sure that it's not a short-lived pipe dream, that it is viable, a solid building, that we're not going to be spending our days passing the hat around so that we can build a ramp and all those things that you have to do to get going. But then I want to pick up on what Ron said, and yeah, the groups on site, the things that they're producing together, the good that can come out of the ability for the site to help bring people together, to do that in the long term, that is the real success for me. I'm overjoyed that the kitchen group is one of the groups that's got together first of all, because I think a lot of us would have the view that the kitchen is the heart of the home, and the communal kitchen is the heart of the community. It's where we bring our Sri Lankan and New Zealand flavours together, for example, and exchange ideas and actually help each other. It's a great metaphor for the rest of what we might do on the site. There are so many people that we could reach out to through processes that happen here. And if we can do that, and if amongst those people are some of the most vulnerable people in the community, then we'll have succeeded.
I echo Andrew. There's a long-term vision here, and there's a horizon where there's a few stepping stones yet, but there is a horizon in the medium future where we'd be getting to be quite confident in the success of this dream, if we manage to cross those boundaries in terms of getting operational, taking flight. And at the moment we have reason to be quite hopeful about that, because this resource, we've already achieved purchase of it. If we manage to hold on to it 2 or 3 years down the track, and we're able to have developed a range of sustainable operations on the site, we'll be really, really on track. So there is that vision of wanting to be here for the long term, and I think for myself personally, once we break even, I think most businesses, I don't have a heck of a lot of business experience like some of the folks in the group, but there is that point in a business where you can see, okay, we've got past that hard part, the setup stage, and now we're sort of in the consolidation and moving forward, and so there'll be a size of relief all around, I think, once we get past that, and myself included. But just to sort of, I don't mean this lightly or to say, there's another part of me which feels that the success is here and now, even before we managed to purchase the site. we had the real possibility we wouldn't be able to purchase in the end, and we wouldn't be able to settle. And was it all a loss? Was it all a loss? Not just the financial, but all the effort. And no, because actually, yes, it would have been devastating, no doubt, yeah. But the connections between people, that's the power of this project. And this is a place which allows those connections to multiply and to grow in this space, so there is benefit here. But even without this space, there's definitely movement happening, energy happening, interest in doing things, and people have been doing things even before this project was in people's mind, and people will continue to do things. And I think the connections between people that have formed in this collective activity, to me, that's also success. So if for some reason, the crystal ball comes out and you go, hang on, this person knows that you're not going to be able to, you're going to be folding in 2 years, I'm not going to cry. I'd be, bummer. it would suck. But it's also just, Andrew was, before this project, was someone I'd seen commenting on Facebook, on our local Facebook sort of social media for the neighbourhood, and I'd go, he's got some pretty good comments. I should reach out and say hi one time, and I'd love to have a chat with Andrew. I think you mentioned something about pedestrians or something. I need to find that post, and I really thought,
I'd say my comments are pretty pedestrian.
Yeah. but I think I've been thinking about the little walkways around, and I noticed, as an example, and then another example there early on when we were actually folding the materials to letterbox initially. Folks got together and we had to join the fold events. You sort of come along and have a cup of tea and fold together. And there were 2 people there whose kids were in the same class, but they never talked to each other. So they sort of say, my child goes to school too. In the same class. They're buddies, But that connection, wouldn't have happened but for, it might have happened down the track, but that's the activity that we're doing already. So it's already a success as well. So there's 2 parts of that answer.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you all. And yes, I thought there might be more than one part to that answer. Look, for me, this really is a community hub. Any member of the community can participate in this. They can contribute to this. They can help create it, grow it, and participate in events as well, and use this space for needs as appropriate. So I have really similar visions of this space as a local. We've talked about families, children, we've talked about older generation coming and using this space. We've talked about our youth. We've talked about a kitchen group, a gardening group. We've talked about parties, getting together. I also see this space as business owners coming to have business meetings in some of our rooms here, just one-on-one or small board meetings. I have a vision of that. So this very much is a space for everybody in our community, and something very proud of to be able to share with our visitors. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about the hub before we finish up today?
Definitely. So thank you, Alison, for sharing your vision. And there have been so many people part of this project who've had visions for the space. And there's 2 kinds of visions, really. One is the space being used, and everyone's sort of got, quite a few people have an image of how the space is being used. But there's some people who've been involved who really get what's going on here in terms of building community infrastructure. And I think one of those people I just want to mention today. Unfortunately, we had really sad news among our board members and our community where a really vibrant community member, Blaise Van Heck, a board member, director of the Monty Hub, works at Busy Bird Publishing, a local company, is part of small press groups and lots of different community groups, passed away suddenly, and that was very recent. But Blaise was one person who got that vision of community infrastructure, and I was thinking about how to describe it. And for those who know anything about painting, I don't know much about painting, but I know, you pick up a canvas and you've got to prepare the canvas. You've got to get it ready to get it painted on. And some people want to know, what's going to be here? What's going to be the things here? And there's some people who kind of get that what we're building here is the canvas for people to draw upon. And you've got to get it stretched out right, you've got to get it prepared. And Blaise was one of those people who really got that and has been part of building those sorts of community spaces at Busy Bird Publishing, had open mic nights there, was trying to create community space themselves up at Busy Bird with her partner Kev, and saw this as an extension of that kind of spirit, building community infrastructure for people to come and have a massive open night, open mic night, and do whatever they want to do in community together. So that is probably a good dedication to make as well in terms of the amount of visionaries in this space, and Blaze was definitely one of those visionaries.
Lovely, thank you for that tribute, MJ. I had the privilege of attending her life celebration, I'm going to call it. I'm not going to call it a funeral, it was a life celebration. And it was beautiful in Montsalvat, bright colours, and I've never met Blaze. I didn't know anything about Blaze except that she owned Busy Bird Publishing, and it was my loss. And what I got from her life celebration, from all her family sharing what it was like to be a part of her life and to have her in their life, I got that she was a very, very special person. And I missed out. I didn't get to meet her or get to know her, and I missed out. So I'd like to see us acknowledge her contribution as well. So thank you for that, MJ. A really big contributor to this hub at this level. And I think in the future we will be acknowledging her in this space. All right, well, thank you all very much for your time today. I appreciate your sharing your journeys with us, Marissa, Andrew and Ron. If you would like to contribute in the future at all to the Monty Community Hub, you are more than welcome to give me a call. So you can ring me at my council number, and you can contact me at council, and you can also contact any of the board members and Marissa. So I'm going to ask them to actually say how to contact you.
Well, I'm happy for people to call me, but I think Marissa's probably a good central point. I'll give you my mobile number right now, 0414 097 290. People are welcome to call me, and I think there's also some social media which I'll pass over to.
So Ron's really good if you've got some trades to offer or some materials to offer. So that's a good number to have. I've taken on the coordinator role for the project, so happy to have people call me, 0459 561 465. Our website, montyhub.org. You can find more information about the project, sign up for our newsletter, you can sign up to help, and you can also sign up as a member of our non-profit cooperative who owns the site. So just have a look on our website. And social media, probably the most active is Facebook, Monty Community Hub, and you can follow us on Facebook. That's probably the best way to get in touch. And as Alison said, through anyone you see here can bounce over to us.
Thank you very, very much, all of you, for joining us today. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate you doing that. I'm glad you've listened to the podcast, enjoyed it. Again, please replay if you missed any of those numbers or contact details. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening today. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future, hopefully down Weir Street or at the Monty Community Hub.